This is CRM Audio, the podcast about dynamic CRM. If you're looking for a podcast about some other CRM, if there is any other CRM, like a Goldmine podcast, you probably have to look someplace else. Joining me in the cast of characters is George Doubinski, also known as Gru. Hello, George.
Hello. Good evening. Or good morning to you.
I'm in South Carolina. George, you're in Sydney, Australia?
Sydney, Australia. It's getting late.
So we're basically spanning the world here. Also joining us is Shawn Tabor, also known as CRM Hobbit. Hello, Shawn.
Hello, Joel. Today I'm in the Big Apple.
Wow.
But normally I'm in the sunny climes of Tampa.
So you made it to New York City.
Yes, little man in the big city. Yes, that would be me.
Why are you called the CRM Hobbit? Is your name Frodo or something?
No, I am of genuinely small stature. I like to eat multiple meals. I am a fan of second breakfast, and I love CRM, dynamic CRM specifically.
Actually, last year at one of our conferences, Shawn and I and Scott Sewell did a presentation together, and it was quite impressive because it looked like Jack and the Beanstalk or something.
I truly did look like a hobbit that day.
George, what do you do during your normal job other than being a star podcaster?
What I don't do. For the past couple of days, I was virtually kicking developers. Or kicking virtual developers. How does that work when you give it to something over Skype? I don't know. We have a few demos, and we finishing the product, which is probably a topic for another podcast. We just wrapping up the product that could be of interest to CRM community at some point. Today I was at the cemetery.
Really?
I have a customer who is running CRM business. They deal with the plots at the cemeteries at a very lucrative business, mind you. But so they use CRM to manage, to manage complaints, to manage cases, and things like that. People buy and sell those plots, and then they need to be taken care of. It's like
reminds me of the old joke from when I was a kid. People are dying to get in.
Well, kind of.
Would that technically be corpse relationship management?
Actually, your fellow Australian Leon Tribe had a April Fool's post about CRM corpse relationship management.
I remember that.
Well, I suppose that it comes to that, yes.
Yes.
No, but interesting that CRM. I mostly deal with the small to medium businesses. I don't get into 5,000 user installations. Just not my cup of tea. I prefer dealing with people who run the business, and the difference is that it's a topic in itself, the difference between large businesses and small businesses and how they use CRM. The difference is that small to medium businesses, when you deal with people, you deal with people who are in charge, and when they ask you to do something, they would pay you out of their own pocket. That changes attitude. It changes the project dynamics, right?
Definitely.
So they ask you for what absolutely necessary. There's no bells and whistles. You just trying to do the job, and there is a bottom line. Does it improve their bottom line or not? That's the most important question. So that's why I prefer to deal with those. Less politics, less fluff, less project management, more doing things. Dealing with these customers, it's like the variety of businesses. The one is in the recording videos, training videos, educational training videos. The other one is in managing plots at the cemeteries. The third one is in selling informational kiosks, and you name it. I mean, you just go from one to another, and it just shows how wide is the spread of CRM. So any business can use CRM and XRM. Remember this video? I thought it was great. It was on YouTube, the XRM platform.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was funny. That was clever. That was awesome video. I think it still applies, and it's just,
like cow management and all this great stuff.
Yeah, constituents management, cow management, and so forth.
Yeah. And you're exactly right, because the big projects is where you get into the analysis paralysis and we need a meeting to plan the meeting for the meeting kind of thing. And sometimes it's refreshing just to have somebody who can say, here's what we want, you go in and do it.
But, I've also had implementations at an enterprise where it's more for a department within an enterprise, and the people you're talking to are responsible for their departmental P&L. So then you can get into a little bit of what George is talking about.
Right.
But when you have issue that bleeds over into the enterprise analysis paralysis is when possibly you have a budget overrun, something happens with the project timeline, something like that. Then you get into all the fun that you can get with an enterprise.
Yeah, where it gets back, I would say on the flip side, sometimes with the small implementations, you have, like, for example, I have some nonprofit customers who don't necessarily have the technical resources there. And so That's when you get into the fun of they have everything installed on one server, or they have really a requirement or a vision that's an enterprise level, but only a budget to do the bare minimum. I think it's great that it can be used so many different places, because I love that I work at a financial services company one day. We have a, not corpse management, but we have convict management, where basically a prison system or something uses it. So, and George, I think part of the fun of this podcast, since you do live in Australia, where something like 8 of the 10 most deadly snakes are, where there are crocodiles, where there are snakes large enough to eat the crocodiles, and it literally rains spiders. I think part of the fun of this is going to be seeing if you live to see the next episode.
Yeah, you get used to it. The latest one is not the snakes eating crocodiles; it's octopus eating crabs. So if you search for that on YouTube, you'll find the latest video from Animal A Eats Animal B in Australia kind of episode.
And so every time I watch the Discovery Channel and there's some weird animal that has 3 heads or something, it's always Australia. And
oddly enough, in Florida, we freak out when there's a cockroach, or not. It's not a cockroach; it's a palmetto bug, or one of those giant long, daddy long leg spiders. We freak out that.
Last year, I found a copperhead under my shed, which everybody in South Carolina thinks any snake is a copperhead, but this was really a copperhead. And I posted a picture on Facebook, and George basically said, "That's not a snake."
I did have an experience where I was running, I went for a run, and from a bush in my subdivision came a small alligator. That actually happened, and so that's the weirdest animal interaction I think I've had. So
weirdest animal action. I was given a lift by a taxi driver, and he was telling me how he was working in the Northern Territories, up the north, very, very north of Australia, like the northern tip of Australia. And he said that they used to find saltwater crocs on one of the islands about 100 miles from the shore. And those crocs are not shy to take on a shark, for example. So that's how it goes. So
crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. But the attitude you take, when I arrived, I said, hey, look, Sydney funnel web, it's the deadliest one in the world. I said, look, the Sydney funnel web, how do I know? And a friend of mine said, oh, you know when you see it. So yeah, when you see it, you know this one is like a badass. You know when you see it. If you see the spider and it kind of looks scary, that's not it, right?
So like the hairy tarantulas and stuff aren't really scary. Just the little ones.
They're fluffy. Tarantulas, have some respect. They're decent spiders, but when you see a funnel web, you know. That's the bad one. Yeah. Anyway,
so
digression. Yeah.
So let's get on topic.
Yes.
First of all, I thought it would be good to talk about why we're doing this, because other than liking to talk to each other, a little background. We are all fairly active online, Twitter, blogging, etc. You may be familiar with George and I from the CRM Tip of the Day blog. So we blog every day about CRM interesting topics. But what I love about the podcast format is it lets us get deeper into some of these topics. It lets us have more of a conversation around them. And I think there's a value to that, as long as we don't drone on and get boring. And of course, since this is an audio podcast, we can't show you a demo of anything. But again, there's so much out there to talk about now with the rapid release cycles and CRM, Parature, Dynamics Marketing, all the other stuff that's coming and is already here that I get questions all the time, both from inside my company and from customers, about how am I supposed to keep up with all this stuff. So by having this podcast, and I'm a big podcast fan too, because I have I'm very busy, as are Shawn and George, and I don't have a lot of time to sit around reading blogs. I write blogs regularly, but I don't have a lot of time to read that. I check Twitter probably every other day. And so I like having the opportunity while I'm on the plane, or whether I'm driving my car to work or to a client site, to listen to something for 10, 15 minutes. I find that's a very good thing to do. And in looking out there, I did not see many CRM podcasts at all. So we talked and said, hey, let's make one.
Exactly.
The challenge is with the podcast that about 80% of them dead boring. So I hope that we're gonna have some fun and have some interesting guests, because one of the reasons I would like to get into podcasting is the idea that we try to implement at CRM Tip of the Day, the idea of what we call truck stop or round table or whatever we call it, when few experts in the field get together and argue passionately about how best to do how best to implement specific feature, what's available, what's the best place to store documents, and so forth, and have in-depth discussion and clash of opinions about the subject.
But yeah, and like Shawn and I were just talking the other day about a security topic, and there really are 3 different ways to do almost everything in CRM.
Unfortunately, yes.
And George, I got to ask you, you seem to take a very perverse thrill in proving me wrong about something. Most recently, tip 397, at the end, you said correcting Joel is my favorite thing to do. And I mean, that pretty much says you like to find me wrong. And so, why is that, George?
I suppose I feel that some of the greatness rubs on me when I do that, and it's kind of I was just playing basketball against Michael Jordan and I slam dunk. That's kind of feeling. So
all right, but in my defense, when you like 397, for example, the question that I was asked was, can I delete the support user? And I said, no, you can't delete the support user. You came back with you can't even disable it. That wasn't the question. The question was not, can I disable the support user? It was, can I delete the support user? My accuracy level is still in the high 98, 99%, which is much better than stock tips and weather prognostication.
No. Yeah, you see, you quoting, you referring to the source. The source that you're referring to never mentioned anything about deleting. You see, so you kind of you're projecting. So you're assuming that because something cannot be disabled, it cannot be deleted, right?
And this is why I wanted Shawn to be here, because we need an impartial referee.
Yeah, but
and I will say on this one, I will have to say I side with George, because I can see how being correct when in a discussion with you, Joel, it's a little bit exhilarating. I'm not going to lie to you.
That $10 I promised you, Shawn, forget about it. I thought you were on my side. You're a fellow Hitachian.
Hey, it's podcast family.
You're just scared of Gru.
Well, have you seen the wastelands? Have you seen the bullet farms and the gas towns that they have in Australia? I've seen Mad Max. I'm not going to mess with them.
Yeah, George does look like Groot, but he also has a strong Telly Savalas 1976 look. If he put on that hat, he could be Kojak too.
I mean, they have giant trucks with guys with guitars and flamethrowers.
And they make
just going up and down the road.
They make people hood ornaments too.
Exactly.
I suppose we compensate for the lack of firearm in Australia because we have fairly strict laws. So every time I come to America, we go to the shooting range.
All right. So I thought, like I said, there's a lot of things coming up, and I don't want to be the, hey, wow, this is cool kind of thing. I'd like to, instead of just spouting off, what's your favorite feature? I'd like to pick one and dig a little bit deeper into it. And one that I've just recently finished a blog post on, it'll probably have posted by the time this runs, is about the OneNote integration, because I see a lot of stuff out there about the OneNote integration, and on the whole, I think it's a good thing. But I thought about it a little bit more, and what I'm advising my clients is there's some things you really have to think about before you do that. I don't know about you guys, but my OneNotes are generally pretty messy. Do you guys have like clean OneNote notebooks, or are yours like mine, which looks like a third grade notebook that you wrote on every other way on every page?
Well, mine, it depends. So if I'm in a notebook that I'm sharing with other people on my team, for example, then it's clean. If it's mine, it's generally not typed. I'm using my Surface and my pen, so it's generally handwritten. So good luck if you could read my handwriting. And there's pictures and drawings and all kinds of stuff in the sides, and yeah, it's not printable on a single page. No, mine are not clean. But if I'm collaborating, then I'm typing. And we did this just last night. We had 4 people in a OneNote tab at the same time, all writing, and it was really a cool experience. And I could see how, having that connected to a CRM record would be really cool. But at the same time, depending on your organization, depending on your industry, there's some do's and don'ts, I would imagine, that would have to go along with that.
Would you be able to collaborate on OneNote that is stored in CRM?
Yeah, that's the point. Is the and this is another factor, is it's online only. It uses the Office online services. So what it does is it really is a linker, it uses the SharePoint integration, and it kind of pre-creates a OneNote and puts it in the social pane on another tab by the notes. And so It's not doing anything you can't do yourself, but it's linking it inside CRM. You don't have to remember to share it with everybody. Anybody who has access to the account can get to there. So yeah, it's an improvement there, but it's not the magic pill.
No. But what I was asking, with this OneNote in CRM, can you reproduce this Shawn's experience of 4 people editing at the same time?
Yeah, you can, because you're using it OneNote Online.
So and think of it this way, George. With normal OneNote Online, or even OneNote on your device, if you're linked to an Outlook appointment, it's the same kind of thing. It's just linking to a CRM record. The OneNote functionality doesn't change.
There's nothing about the OneNote that's actually stored inside CRM.
Right. It's just a link, just like Outlook.
And so I think that's the other thing, is I don't think the word has gotten out as much as it should, that this is online only, but all the indications I see is, since it uses OneNote Online, and if you look in OneNote, you can't even easily share a OneNote document with SharePoint on premise. Chances are this is going to really remain kind of a cloud thing. So when you look at financial services or other people like that, there's a good chance that if you're on premise, this feature may not get to you unless things change. The way my crystal ball looks right now, I don't see it easily going to. And it's the same thing with, there's some of the new Excel features in the spring release that, so for example, where you can edit the spreadsheet in Excel Online and then automatically update CRM. You can't do that. That Excel Online stuff requires the online SharePoint integration.
Yeah, any industry where you're dealing with personal identifiable information or HIPAA requirements in the U.S., you could run into some issues in being able to use these kind of functions. But online is a push, and that's where the assets are being put towards. So there's a lot of cool stuff, but then there's a downside of it, being online for those that are on premises.
Implications that, for example, you've got your social security cards, right?
Right.
And, so if you make a photo of it and you place it into OneNote, there's a good chance it will convert it to a text. And by doing that, it will be searchable. So you'll be able to pick it up as a clean text. So suddenly the photo of your credit card suddenly becomes a number that can be stolen. So it's kind of...
Yeah, there's a number of no-nos in that kind of statement. But
well, I think just the fact that it's unstructured data kind of gives me a little bit of pause before just telling customers, hey, go ahead, gung-ho, use it, is you need to think through what data should go in OneNote and what data should not go in OneNote. Anything you need to do is advance find for, anything that needs to be backed up with your CRM database, anything that requires an extra level of security, because that's the other thing. Just like the SharePoint integration, there's no real security integration. If you only have access to it through CRM and only have access to that record, there's pseudo security. But if you have access to SharePoint, can get to that document library, there's nothing stopping you.
But think about it. I mean, into the future, right? Let me dream for a second. So I'm in OneNote, which is attached to an opportunity record, right? I'm in OneNote, and then at some point I realize that I need to create a record describing one of my products, right? So I press some hotkey, whatever it is, right mouse click, search for products, and suddenly insert into my OneNote a link to a product in my CRM. Right? This functionality is not there. Or create a new record straight out of OneNote and insert a link into it. All without leaving this OneNote, which is part of the opportunity record. So given that, if you can get out of OneNote back into CRM seamlessly, that would create a different layer of communication between, create a linkage, ability to link records in a way you couldn't do it before. If that ability, currently this ability is not there, so yes, there is a danger that people will use OneNote to store data that don't belong there, or rather they would be better off stored elsewhere. I agree, but think about if you use a bit of imagination, you can see where it all can go in the future.
Oh, definitely. And I think if we had a way to send CRM information to OneNote, think of the possibility for I'm going to a meeting and I need to take a summary of this account with me, but I'm not going to be connected or something. I think there would be some value in that.
Joe, obviously, that's a pleasure of mine, number 48. You obviously don't know that you can press Control-P and select print to OneNote or send to OneNote.
I have tried that. It doesn't work very well.
I did it this morning, Joel. I think in this case, you're one of the three of us who can't do it.
I guess it depends on how you want it formatted. Anyway, I'll give you that you can get kind of. I'll give you that. Okay. So, okay. I'm glad I'm the editor. So I guess just to bring this back on track, I guess the point is I'm not saying don't use it. I'm just saying think before you do. The main thing I brought out in my blog post is provide your users some OneNote training or maybe a template with an example of what works and what doesn't. There's some really good stuff at the Virtual Academy, Microsoft's free training site, that good stuff on that. And then just train your users on expectations around what kind of data should go in OneNote versus shouldn't go in OneNote.
That's a good point, and it's really important because in this case, in configuring and customizing CRM, a lot of times we will configure or modify functionality to help shepherd behavior, right? We can't do that in this case.
Right.
Because, like you've already mentioned, the security, but once it jumps into OneNote, we have no more control over it from a CRM perspective. So that training, best practices, and guidance is crucial for really proper use of that functionality, I would say.
But isn't it like you guys work for the big corporation, right? Isn't it always a challenge when you connect CRM to other systems to manage security? Because even when you step out into SharePoint, people say, oh, great, SharePoint integrates and a seamless process, which people have to remember that you have to enable SharePoint integration to see that OneNote magic to start with. So when you enable this SharePoint integration, we can now put documents and associate it with the records. But people assume that the records that you associate are governed by the same security. Remember that
right.
It's what used to be what Joel Spolsky coined as a leaking abstraction. There is this good abstraction of documents being associated with the CRM records, but the abstraction is leaking in the sense that if I choose to go straight into SharePoint, I will get to all those, chances are that I will get to all those documents records regardless what permissions I have inside CRM.
Right. If you can discover the URL, then yeah. You can get to that information, and I have not.
Search box, tried that.
Well, that's true. Okay.
So that's
true too.
my URL discovery.
That's true too. But I have not once, and I may be in the minority, but I have not once had an implementation where just the straight out of the box SharePoint integration was enough for the customer's requirements. I've either had to develop some kind of custom document upload page or integrate security with AD to where proper permissions were back and forth. I've never had it just where I set up document location and we're done.
I've had some very small ones, but it wasn't a big priority for them. It was just kind of something they wanted to enable. But you're right that a lot of times, especially if you have alternate topologies or something like that, where they don't want to do the folder structure, or they want to do the folder structure a different way, or they want additional metadata on the check-in page, or we do a lot of that.
Metadata is generally the one that triggers. I see that almost every time. They want to tag their docs with certain keys.
You guys talking about the proper integrations, but let's consider the simple fact that storage in CRM Online, excess storage, is $10 a gig a month. Excess storage in SharePoint is 20 cents a gig a month.
Right.
So that's about a factor of 50.
Yeah, and I do expect like the SharePoint, the OneNote thing and the Excel online thing is going to drive more of our clients who currently might not use SharePoint integration to use it. And for them, if document libraries is not the primary thing, if these other things are more important to them, I think we'll see more people turning on the out-of-the-box integration.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I mean, I find myself in minority as far as OneNote is concerned. I'm using it more and more. Actually, we had one of the Office MVPs in Australia presenting at user group, and he had a great tip of using OneNote. He said that he has OneNote that is partitioned by months and then by day. And when he works with that OneNote, that he records everything that happens with him during the day. He takes notes about client meetings and everything. He said, I know all my professional life is in there, and I can search and find things. If that happened to me, I will find it in OneNote. So he has it like a journal.
I kind of use it like that for personal stuff too, because when I have something like an email I get that isn't business related, but I want to keep it somewhere where I can find, or, I have a lot of things stored in my OneDrive for like PDFs and things like that. But if there's something like a web page I see that I want to do or something like that, I will just clip it to OneNote. And I'm seeing it become a lot more popular. Just anecdotally, which I don't know if this is not scientific, but people I know, a realtor I was just talking to, or people I know in non-professional ways have brought up OneNote, or I see them using it. And so I think Evernote and others were kind of winning for ways, but Microsoft has effectively branched out to all these different platforms, and it's a lot more attractive than it was a couple of years ago.
And I have like 17 different workbooks across 4 different live accounts that are disjointed and make no sense and are unsearchable.
Okay, here's something for my unskilled OneNote-ness. I for a while was doing a separate OneNote for each project I work on, but now I've got this big mess with all these different notes. Do you do like separate just for your personal OneNotes? Do you do a separate one for each customer you have, or do you have like a single OneNote with different tabs on it?
So for work, I now have tabs for each client. Tabs for each client, and then pages based on the meetings. So that's working out better. But
you guys,
before that,
you discovered the power of super tabs, that you can group them and collapse into groups of tabs?
Yes. That is, the sub pages are super helpful, especially when you're
sub pages, the sub tabs, so you can.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't. Then I'm out of the loop.
I just
enlighten.
Bringing me OneNote, what it's called. It's when you right mouse click, new section group. Near the tabs, you click and create not new section, but new section group, and it creates a collapsible set of sections, drillable. You can drill into set of sections. It's kind of like a filing cabinet. So you can have a massive one. Yeah, massive. That's what I do with the customers. So a group, I have OneNote dedicated to CRM work, and one of these Uber tabs is customers. And then when I drill in, the tabs, there is a tab for each customer. But then I drill back, I have, say, my notes about research about topics in CRM, or when I'm doing research for the book or some training topics. So I've got these Uber tabs on top, and then you drill in, and it's an extra dimension.
This has been tip number 1 from George Doubinski's new site, OneNote Tip of the Day. But I will say, the other thing that kind of scares me, though, I have had a OneNote notebook get corrupted when it got to a certain size. I think it was somewhere around 30 megabytes or more. What I did, I was having for a while, I had kind of a journal where I was posting pictures. It was either a trip or something, and it reached a point where it got too big to sync, and it kind of half synced, and I was never able to recover all of it. So that scares me a little bit, that it's not necessarily something you want to put 10 gigs of data into.
No.
Yeah, but this research is mostly textual and a bit of doodling. For me, I kind of get a bit concerned when I ask every time I press, the tip number 2, to impress customers, I pull out the Surface Pen. And, if you click the tip of the pen, the top of the pen, you can click it like a real pen. The default action is actually start OneNote.
Yep.
So you pull it out and you click the pen and OneNote starts. But every time then I start textual OneNote, it asks me, so which one do you want to use, the handwritten one or the text one? And I'm kind of undecided. So, I don't have the heart to press don't ask me again button. I'm afraid that it's going away. If you press this button, it's going to go away, and you're never going to get back this freedom of choice. Don't you have this feeling, like in general, when you have a dialogue and there is a checkbox say, "Don't ask me ever again." You're kind of afraid to check this box because you don't know where to
Yeah,
find
I've had that happen. I had that happen.
So you kind of don't want to lose this freedom. So I'm kind of bit tossed between a handwritten one, which is a mess, personal mess, doodles and things like that, obscene pictures of stuff. The one, yeah, exactly like what Shawn's experience is, neatly typed with the check boxes and radio buttons and what's not. For the customers to see and share.
We're coming to the end of our time today, and I think this has been a great first episode. Even though it's CRM audio, it's kind of turned into OneNote audio today, but this has been fun. So I think in the future, what we'll have is more like this, where we dig into a topic or two.
Hopefully we're going to have some guests.
We'll have some guests. Lots of CRM goodness.
Yeah,
they're gonna have to be good guests to be to top the power of excitement that we provide.
One thing you can say about the first episode, and that's going to be true and stay true. This is the best episode yet,
and it's only uphill from here.
Exactly.
But before we go, I wanted to say a little bit about our theme music. Our theme music is provided by Dale Simmons. He goes by the name Exovex in his professional music career, but he's actually a CRM consulting director and a very talented multi-instrumentalist. He's just released his album called Radio Silence, which is not a description of our podcast by any means, but it's a quite good progressive rock album, and he got some really impressive musicians join him, such as drummers from Devo and Sting's drummer and a bunch of famous drummers and keyboardists and people like that. So thank you, Dale, for giving us permission to use your music, and I recommend everybody check out his site, dalesimmons.com.
Very cool.
Did we just get paid for that?
No, but we didn't have to pay for it, so that's a plus.
Okay, so it's a barter, old system of barter exchange, yeah.
Because George, the 3 listeners we have to the podcast that will be rushing to his website will be that pays untold benefits.
Is it you, Joel, and myself? You mean the listeners?
Yeah, pretty much right now. Yes, that's
I don't plan on listening, but I'll get my wife to.